logging continues in New South Wales.
The Walk Against Warming aims to raise awareness about climate change.
Thousands of people turned out in Sydney today to drum up support for the fight against global warming.
When it comes to climate change, it's action in the next few years that really counts.
We simply have to say it's time to stop.
It's up to us.
Caring for nature and country has always been central to life on these lands. Guided for millennia by First Nations peoples. Colonisation violently disrupted this deep custodianship, bringing dispossession and destruction that continue and still reverberate today. In the time since, 60% of New South Wales biodiversity has been destroyed or severely degraded. First Nations people have fought against this every step of the way. For everyone else, it took a lot longer for these ideas to take hold. It was the 1930s when the tide was beginning to turn. Bushwalkers led this charge because they could see that our well-being was bound to the health of country. They cared about nature and started the trend of recreational bushwalking to spend time learning from and being immersed in nature's beauty. Myles Dunphy and other early bushwalker conservationists got together and formed bushwalking clubs. Throughout the 1930s and 40s, the number of these clubs exploded. They quickly realised that the precious environments they loved were afforded no protection under the law, and that they needed to take action to protect them. By the 1950s, there were so many groups fighting battles on their own, the need for coordination and a united voice became evident. In 1955, Myles Dunphy, Thistle Stead, Strom, and several other leaders got together to pursue this united voice, and the Nature Conservation Council of New South Wales was born.
In the early days, the member groups were very under-resourced. Nearly everything was totally voluntary, including the Conservation Council. And so it was a really opportunity for the umbrella group to provide communal resourcing. It was a shared learning experience very often, and it was also providing, as I say, people with particular expertise from one or another group who could be representing the issue at stake to politicians as they made their decisions, advocacy in Parliament, talking to people in local government, a whole range of issues, getting to know the public service and also helping to influence the kind of legislation that went through, which was a key role that NCC was very well suited to do at that time.
For NCC, fighting to protect forests has been a defining feature of our work. These first years were focused on collective action to achieve a National Parks and Wildlife Service. In 1967, the National Parks Act passed, marking a huge and early victory for the movement. We then went to work hard on national park proposals, reserves, and other solutions to protect these magnificent places. The growing swell of support and wins in our initial campaigns brought a new fuel to those dedicated to the protection of nature in New South Wales. Soon, the movement erupted into a new era. Alongside the fight to protect forests as national parks, urban bushland became a key rallying point and defining battle for the history of Sydney. One defining fight of the time to protect bushland was the Battle for Kelly's Bush, a site battle that NCC supported. This went on to kick off the green bans and create a legacy.
Basically stops every building project in Sydney. It sits very squarely on your shoulders as to whether you're prepared to be flexible and back off. Are you?
No, we're not. In the late 1960s, early 1970s, there was absolutely no legislation to protect the environment or heritage buildings. So there was a big uprising of resident groups who were wanting to protect their areas. And one of those areas was Hunters Hill, where a bunch of middle-aged women, always known as the Battlers for Kelly's Bush, wanted to protect Kelly's Bush, the last remaining natural bushland on the harbour. And they wrote to the Premier, they wrote to their local member, who were Liberals and didn't answer. They wrote to everyone they could think of, and they then got out the telephone book and wrote to all the unions. And only one union responded, and that was the small New South Wales Builders Labourers Federation, who sent out their president, Bob Pringle, to talk to the Battlers for Kelly's Bush and to look at the bush. And Bob was very much a bushy type. He'd come from the country areas, and he recommended to the Labourers executive that they put a black ban, as it was called then, on Kelly's Bush.
The green bans were born. The unionists and environmentalists went on to prevent numerous proposals that would have destroyed natural and built heritage sites. The power that environmentalists and unionists held from working together made an impact around the world and shaped the city of Sydney forever. Further north, a new front in the battle for forest protection was forming. A new era of direct action to protect rainforests in New South Wales came to be known as the Forest Wars.
I think forest wars is right. It's been an ongoing series of battles over the years. So there was already an ongoing battle over what was proposed as the Border Ranges National Park and logging of rainforest, the old-growth rainforest on the Wangari Plateau. So that started in about 1973. There's a local group that opposed this new road being constructed onto the plateau, and Sydney groups have become involved, and they made a major campaign issue. So that included NCC plus a range of other Sydney groups. When Rand was elected, they had made rainforest, but that particular area of rainforest, the Border Ranges, a significant state issue.
This battle turned into the proposal for the 33,000 hectare Border Ranges National Park. This became the most controversial environmental issue in New South Wales of the time. It was during this time that NCC was working hard to raise awareness for the importance of rainforests. NCC's resources were wrapped up in the Border Ranges National Park and other statewide proposals, so when we were asked to help save the Terania Creek rainforest, we said no. We thought it was too small an area to have a big impact. But the fight for Terania Creek captured the imagination of us all and put the spotlight where it was needed, on this reality of rainforest destruction, and so we added our voice to the fight.
I got involved with Terania Creek. I spent a bit of time living up the valley in 78, and in 79 we had the major blockade there. Terania Creek was only maybe a dozen or so local landowners or interested people who didn't want to see the rainforest at the end of their valley being logged, and yet they end up making rainforest an issue around Australia and increasing attention around the world, and leading to most rainforests in Australia being protected to some extent or another, all from that small core group of people. Yeah.
The Terania Creek blockade was a defining moment for the modern environment movement. For the first time in Australia, people put their bodies in front of bulldozers to save a rainforest. This galvanised our movement into taking non-violent direct action when necessary.
They all got sucked in under. About 120,000 hectares was protected at that time of some of our best and most intact old-growth forest and rainforest in these core areas. The blockade raised the attention, or focused attention on rainforest. So it became a rainforest conservation campaign. So I think it's a really important shift from place-based campaign to a theme-based campaign. I think it had huge ramifications nationally and internationally, and it also encouraged a lot of people who were involved because of our success at Terania Creek to go on further, and that helped initiate campaigns like for the Franklin and for the Daintree and other campaigns, and involved other groups into taking action.
The collective action and wins along the East Coast ricocheted across the country. Bushwalkers, conservationists, students, mums, dads, and everyday Australians from all walks of life started to get involved in NCC and with their own local campaigns. The 1980s and 90s was a period of structural change for the Nature Conservation Council. Dr. Judy Messer initiated and led a process that turned the organisation from an under-resourced alliance of volunteers towards the professional, efficient and staffed campaigning organisation it is today.
Here we have the bulldozers destroying Sydney's bushland heritage. They've got going on. It has to stop.
She was chair of the board for 16 of these years and had a defining impact on the organisation. The reform started in 1979 with the hiring of NCC's first staff member, and then the council took a big step in 1989 with the introduction of the role that is now known as the Chief Executive Officer. Into the new millennium, NCC was now set up to run big and effective campaigns, just as scientists began calling the alarm on a new issue: the existential threat of climate change.
Scientists continue to tell us that the first signs of climate change are already visible.
Will recommend the adoption of this protocol to the conference by unanimity.
We have agreed on the important role of clean coal technologies.
Prime Minister John Howard's climate scepticism was derailing climate negotiations on the international stage in Kyoto. And at home, people were furious.
What we've seen is a statement that doesn't acknowledge the important role that binding targets will need to play for developed countries in moving us away from climate change.
This is very much a lost opportunity. APEC was a step within the UN framework, within the Kyoto framework, to come up with a solution. And what they've done is they've just delayed and delayed.
When I started in 2004, NCC wasn't that focused on climate, but the movement and obviously the community was starting to be. I remember really kicking off the climate campaign with a bunch of the team there who were really keen to do more on climate. So I remember travelling around with a big banner for the community to sign onto, for the government to sign the Kyoto Protocol. So you've got to remember, this was a time of John Howard, climate denialism. It was really quite remarkable to see the community support.
But Malcolm Turnbull was happy to explain their biggest policy difference, why his government won't sign the Kyoto Treaty.
Many of the countries that have ratified the protocol, of course, aren't going to meet their targets, but we will.
But what about the symbolism that is important, obviously, to a lot of Australian voters in that actual signing of it?
I think Australian voters are looking for substance.
What we discovered at the time was that nobody was on the street doing any big protests for climate, and I think it's a critical part of any movement and of any successful environmental campaign. You've got to bring it back at some point to the community protesting. Then, of course, with some of the other NGOs, we started Walk Against Warming, which became the biggest protest that this country had seen on climate, which was really needed. So that protest, Walk Against Warming, actually helped shape the responses by the political parties at federal elections.
I remember going along to the local march in my town, Tari, and I was in my final year of high school. I think I must have been about 17 years old. And I'd just started my high school social justice group, and we were getting quite organised, and we were really concerned about climate change and the state of nature in New South Wales, and heard about this statewide day of action, the Walk Against Warming, and so we organised our local march along the Manning River in Taree, and it was such a wonderful event and really galvanised our local action group, and that was the first time that I heard about Nature Conservation Council. It's just humbling, really, to be here and to reflect back on the last 70 years and the amount of work that's been done.
You know, going back to the turn of last century, you know, back to the 1900s, there's been people out there in the community advocating for protection of forests.
This was an incredible place. You know, we would bring school groups up to this place and show them, look at this incredible, pristine, undisturbed catchment area. Look at the bushland. Look at the biodiversity in the creek. And now, what do we show them?
What makes the difference, and what has made the difference for decades, is having more organised conservation groups. Groups to help focus that interest from those small little groups of individuals at the government level. And particularly in more recent times, getting the publicity for them. I think number one lesson is that a small group of people can initiate major change if they devote themselves to it. And it only takes a small core group with support. So, you know, support, broader community support's really important, and we need the broader community to show that support.
NCC plays an absolutely critical role representing all of the little member groups, some of them not so little, but the communities who are fighting for the environment at the local level. Like, it just plays such a critical role. But that's why the role of NCC is so important, to give power and voice to all of the different community organisations.
I mean, that's the role of groups like NCC, and that's what's made a difference from these little groups at the turn of the last century fighting to protect areas vainly, to actually being effective these days and achieving often major conservation outcomes, because it's coordinating all those inputs from groups and individuals, giving them a focus and giving them that umbrella of support. And that's why we need groups like NCC.
We live in such a beautiful planet, it's kind of stupid that we're just like throwing it away. And so, you know, I think that we should just kind of, you know, speak up and save it, you know.
You know, you look at the last 70 years and the environment landscape here in New South Wales and how that's changed, the number of national parks that have been established, the number of rules that have been changed, campaigns that have been fought and won to protect the amazing rainforests that we have in, you know, particularly the northern parts of New South Wales, things like the Terania Creek blockade. It's quite overwhelming to think about the amount of wins for nature that have been achieved.
From humble beginnings, we've grown into a leading voice for nature in our state. A movement of scientists, bushwalkers, community campaigners, conservationists, all bound by a deep love for country and a belief that when nature is thriving, we all are. Over 7 decades, we've taken on powerful interests. We've brought people together in city streets and in remote wetlands, in forests and in Parliament, to protect precious environments and the species who live there.
The reality is we've got a long way to go for protecting nature here in New South Wales.
What sustains me for the future is worrying about the climate, really. I've got grandchildren, and that makes you really realise that there's another generation or two coming along you've got to think about. I would like to see an end to native forest logging. I've been involved in native forest logging for 20 years. In this state, we're hugely frustrated by fanciful words, promises that we keep waiting to be fulfilled. The question is, why do you need an environment movement at all? Ideally, we shouldn't exist. The environment should be looked after by society and our government, but that's not going to happen. We're going to have to be around for a long time to advocate for the environment that can't advocate for itself.
Like many Australians, I'm worried about climate change. It's the biggest problem we face, and that's why our leaders need to put in place climate change policies that will work.
But in the end, they will only be judged on what they actually do.
We've got at NCC now a very young team. Gives so much hope that that's the way for the future, and they can really punch above the weight. And for older people like myself, it's great to see that there's a younger generation coming on to take up the cudgels and move it forwards.
Why are you here?
To save the forest.
And when I think about the last 70 years, I think about people who have fought for decades and decades to improve outcomes for nature in New South Wales. You know, I think about people who have been on NCC's board, who have given so much of their time, people who give so much of their money. They share their knowledge, their expertise and their passion about the environment and about nature. And that is where I draw strength and inspiration for the future.
and it's just so incredible to see. That's what keeps me going. It's still what keeps me going. I just think about our incredible wildlife and nature and just think we've got to keep going.
I really feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, of people who have fought these fights for decades. And that is where I draw my energy and my strength to know that we will win.
As a Member of Parliament now for the Greens, I really, really know how important it is to have a strong environmental movement. We need strong environment groups to be out there, yes, on the streets, but also around the table with the ministers, with the MPs, really arguing strongly the case for environmental protection. We know that the vested interests, the lobby groups, are just pouring through the parliaments at a federal and a state level, and that's why NCC is so important.
Today, we stand on a precipice. We are living through a critical moment for nature. Since NCC was founded in 1955, powerful interests have destroyed 3/4 of the Earth's wildlife. The boundaries of what is sustainable for life on Earth are being crossed on indicators related to biodiversity, water, and the climate. Our entire life support system is under threat. We are witnessing more extreme weather events, fish kills in our rivers, algal blooms creating ocean dead zones, and the continued destruction of native forests as species are pushed precariously close to extinction. Change takes patience, persistence, and commitment. Some changes take generations. It can take hundreds of years for a broken tree limb to become a hollow, which then provides refuge for a glider and their family. Life is tenacious and intent on repair, and communities working together can achieve great change.
Well, we can do it, and the will is growing.
No matter how daunting the task may sometimes seem, there is hope. Never forget that.
So, let's get to work, protecting what's left, restoring what has been destroyed, and continuing the inspirational legacy of all those who've come before us.
We will win for nature, and we will win on these fights, and we will win because of the years and years of time and effort and passion that those people have put into this organisation and have put into protecting nature in New South Wales.